From the wall to the keep, through cathedrals and catacombs, unto ice and ember, where dragons slumber. It was there darkness held the world. Though the cold winds bite, this has been my journey into Dark Souls 3. My name is Ice, and now for a little recap. Last episode I returned to Lothric Castle and defeated the Dragon Slayer armor, got lost in the Grand Archives and met the Lords of Lothric, the Twin Princes, finally giving me the fifth and final ash to reach the Kiln of the First Flame, where the weight of my journey was realized against the soul of Cinder, where I was left with one final question.
Ashen One, hearest thou my voice still?
I do. The base game's complete, but what lies ahead is the first DLC, Ashes of Ariandel. In episode 2, I was unwittingly teleported here by Gale and confronted by a blank sheet of snow and an icy wind. When I first arrived, I was scared, not because of any particular reason, only that I knew it was DLC and I'd probably get one-shot by the mobs. Returning here now, clad in everything I'd found, offered me the safety blanket I needed to explore this place. But beneath my feet, something churned, and the snow crumbled, and in the expansive sea of white, a howl. I battled tooth and nail, and man, this is just something I've come to appreciate so much while playing these games. Movesets. It's so cool how every weapon class has its own animations, their own weight, and it's like a brand new experience trying to learn the limitations and strengths of each weapon. For much of my videos, I always used a sword. I love swords. And in particular, a combo of a fire sword and an ice sword, which I fall back on still for familiarity's sake. But swinging around the spear as I tried to dip around these biting fangs was just fun. I always make it a mission when exploring, at least my first time through a path, everything is getting some hands. And soon, the wolves were laid to rest. And what the fuck is that? Even the trees? To my horror, a horde of flames slowly floated towards me. It was pretty slow though, and honestly kind of cool just running by it. I felt like I was in the Matrix. Their death screeches absolutely gut-wrenching though, but I cleared them out and pressed on. Following upon a path leaden by white, my vision obscured, and before me lay horror after horror. At this point, I don't quite have a grasp on the situation, what this place is, or if I'm even still in Lothric. Then, all in one moment, the haze began to dissipate. The fear I felt crystallized and shattered, and all that was left, intrigue. There, among the horizon, past a long, creaking wooden bridge, stood a church. Just like the cover of the DLC, the goal was presented. The bridge seemed too good to be true. I remembered the one from the catacombs, so instead, I spotted a ladder and went down. This led me to a small slope and a town just beyond, though the ledge told me there was no return. And in truth, I didn't feel ready. So I returned to the start in New Drip and went back down the cliff, and this time went down the hill rather than up it. Again, the flock of wolves bit at my ankles. And finally, in my respite, as the oppressing blizzard rolled off into its chilling zephyr, it presented a giant, lone, gray wolf atop a cliff. I nearly shit myself. I stood there and pondered, deep in thought, and concluded the best course of action was to fuck off. I found another wolf and killed it for fear of ganks, and I didn't catch this until rewatching, but the wolf howled. I cleared this small path and turned around, only to see the wolf had been watching me all along. That wolf is staring at me. Wait. It's looking at me. It's looking at me. Oh my god. It was a frantic fight, as it ran through me like a train. And as I began placing multiple blows, the wolf hung its head and evaporated. Kind of weird it died without losing all its HP. Down the hill led to a rather picturesque sight. Sadly, it wasn't really as cool as I expected. I ended up fighting some Vikings, finding a little loot, and running away into the tower to avoid a pack of wolves that were chasing me. This was a real Skyrim moment. I returned to Firelink and left for my journey once again. This has got to be some sick joke. I mean, what the hell do I even say? I got mauled by 7 wolves at once. There isn't really anything magical about getting mauled. Oh! Wait! Ah! Wait a minute! Wait! Oh my god! Slowly, one by one, they dropped, hacking away tooth and nail, snapping teeth and incredibly loud snarls echoing in my skull. And finally, the wolf again dropped its head and disappeared. This path ended up being a loop, so I guess I went the right way the first time, and decided it was now time to see what's up with the church. I slowly crossed the bridge and approached the building, to be greeted by a knight standing with his arms crossed. He spoke in a gravelly, severe tone.
Now go on inside, show respect, and listen carefully.
Immediately, alarms began blaring in my head. The game was telling me to do something, so I didn't do it, because that only leads to bad shit. I turned right around and went back towards that ledge I'd found a while ago and dropped down it. I want more sliding sections. Further down this hill led to a pit, and in my sight, an abomination. It was resting, but what was this vile creature? To this point, I had walked through and challenged every horror that confronted me in the earlier portions, but there's always that gnawing, a type of wicked fascination that draws you in, yet repels you all the same. Before me was another cliff, another one of those moments, and another plunge into the next chapter. I leapt and slew the being before me and took my first steps into the Corvian Settlement. As I entered through this putrid waterway, a blackened, avian-like being with armor seemingly fused to its flesh, and claws melded into its hands, pressed an assault against me, cementing one question: what is going on? First, I came across living trees, an unceasing blizzard, a giant wolf, an encampment of soldiers, this lone church, and now this. Virulent water with strange spores lining the walls and floor. Gale originally said this painting was rotting, but here, he meant literally. This dying town, and what may be the remaining inhabitants, reduced to mindless birds. But take your mind off these things for now, and look at this view. A tower shrouded by a cliff, and surrounding it, icicles and a tree of ice. Especially enchanting for me, though this won't be explored for quite a while. I finally escape the trenches and make it into a house where I'm greeted by one of those birds, its pleading white eyes, and one request.
O wondrous Ash, grant us our wish. Make the tales true, and burn this world away.
And so I poked and prodded my way through this village, bit by bit, facing yet another monster, happening in this room and fighting 2 of them at once, performing some home invasions, and sentencing a Corvian to drowning in a well, finally finding myself settled in a library. And something about this felt foreboding. I approached, and from behind me, dialogue began spewing. The knight from before, at the church, had apprehended me. Wilhelm. Though he wielded black flames and fought like a bastard, he was too weak to hold me up. This victory gave me a key, which unveiled a staircase and led to a room housing a small child. This is Gale's lady? Now I'm getting concerned. Exiting this home leads us to a forest where I fought an onslaught of these follower pricks and happened in a pit where beneath my feet, earth shook. Immediately thinking to myself, not another fucking worm. But no, instead it was a guy wielding Godric's axe, which is fittingly called the Earthshaker. I then discovered I can kick down trees, and ended up in a cesspool of flies, chittering atop mounds of bone, covered in rot. The heinous assault of buzzing filling the air, a place where the scene is so visceral you can even imagine its smell. One by one, fly after fly, swatted down, burnt to crisps and frozen to bits. I laid my assault against this vicious disease and noticed something, a lever.
as ashes will be, ever seeking fire.
I have no idea who the hell that was speaking, but intuition would tell me Friede. This area ended up leading to her church, and sitting there, she'd finally given me my long-awaited greeting to this painted world. A world I'd already seen the terrors of, and even having been assaulted by one of her followers, yet there she sat. Precariously, without any sense of the harm she'd caused me, without any notion of anything at all. Citing she'd been beside the forlorn, the mutated bird people, a fractured town that retains naught but a little light of humanity. What a sister she is. And almost directly on cue, she broke my cardinal rule, essentially telling me in the most noble way to fuck off. I don't do things this game wants me to, only what it denies me. But still, I must tell my journey how it happened, in order. And here, I knew it was the end. But I wanted it to be the end when it was over. You get me? So I climbed down these tree roots, down to the iced-over lake, and made my approach towards that tower we saw before. What this may hold to me, a mystery, but one I'd need answered before my final plunge. This is a boss fight? In a DLC? I mean, okay, the wolf is cool, but what's the point of the dude? I usually have these epic introductions, but man, I could care less about this guy. And this is my third time seeing the wolf. I'd have expected something more grand. But regardless, it was a fine fight. Nothing extraordinary, and Valorhart is pretty sick. The saving graces here are the environment, with the wolf crashing into icicles, then bursting, the constant flow of wind and ice off of its charges, bites, and a newfound breath attack, while the backdrop of this glimmering ice-encrusted ruin becomes its final resting place. But most importantly, the music. Why is this aspect so epic compared to the fight? The contrasting chants, the violins, chime, and my favorite, a harpsichord, among other instruments. It's so layered, decadent, and so much grander than what's presented, leaving me to wonder, was this even the intended boss? Just listen. It didn't feel like they matched at all. And a song like this can go easily below radars simply due to the conflict and atmosphere. I think it goes to show you how important music fleshes out the weight of a fight and adds that palpable tension, where almost every boss in this game had a killer track that matched the aesthetic and energy of their respective battles. I was just left underwhelmed. I want the fight to be as great as the music, but I'll take my victory and take solace in this piece of music existing in eternity. Finally, the moment you came here for, where this DLC culminates, the opus of this land, that which lies below this church. I walked slowly, unsure what awaited, knowing it'd be her, but instead, I was greeted by a voice. In this basement, housed a large hall, with wooden walls, and through small windows peered blinding light, reflected from this snowy world. Even within, snow fell, but I began to wonder, was this snow, or the ash of this dying world? Here, this giant figure sat, hunched over a bowl. He remarked he'd seen flame flickering, and if he'd seen it, then was it time?
To show her flame.
I would snuff out these ashes for good.
Now this is what I'd been waiting for. Like Pontiff, we began with a walk, and in the piano's chords, the singer building tension, a dance ensued. A dance between her rending ice and this conduit of flame, with the final step culminating the fate of this world. And just like that, she vanished, returning out of nothing, flourishing her will to persist in the safety and comfort of this barren, dying land. This will proved fierce, time after time, being thrown up into the air, her dashing around me. The dance had been lost, so all I had to rely on was sheer luck, which proved useful, launching me into the second phase. A pool of blood puddled underneath her corpse, and in what seemed like desperation, it reached out to the one who remained seated, the vocals falling into an echo. And though this beast cowered, its arms dropped and raised its head and witnessed the horror before its eyes. flame rises. The walls crumble. And now, there were two. I'm greeted by way of screeching and the crash of a cymbal, then pulls in a male choir as dissonant echoes, banging, the scorching sound of fire and bursts of ice fill the room with chaos. This fight will literally make your speakers rumble. It is so loud, but the tension of this battle is insane. And this is why that Greatwolf section was so relevant. This is what sound does. It elevates the experience. When I play video games, I'm typically pretty silent. But here, I was shouting to myself. Who was I supposed to target? How was I meant to fight? This became a tug of war on my very conscience, pulling me across both threats as if two people were simultaneously shouting in my ears. Though faced with the terrifying approach of Father Ariandel dragging his entire body as fast as you can sprint, the constant clamor of his bowl, and the ghastly image of hitting his behind inspired fear in my core. And even despite Friede amplifying my uncertainty with her onslaught of ice attacks, they still weren't enough to hinder my resolve. Rejoice, for I bested this wench in one... Wait. What? What? The adrenaline was pumping so fucking hard. I was reduced to no heals so quickly, and every moment I could breathe felt futile. Finally, my first attempt being laid to rest. I tried my best. But with all this movement, her aggression, and combo-based moveset, it reminded me of someone. A memory I thought I wouldn't encounter. Not again. One that remained so far beyond my grasp, in a realm unlike this. I tried again, and died before even getting her first phase down. The third attempt, I learned I could backstab her, but I also learned she has this very annoying tendency of jumping away from them as the animation begins, though this attempt culminated in getting flattened by the big guy. And in the fourth attempt, I saw it again. This black flame, this element she's harnessed, the memories, again, returning. The fleet-footed dancing, the twirls, her slipping away in a sidestep, the choreography of her combat. After all, this flower too bloomed 3 times. This same chant since the second phase, finally finding its purpose, marking the godhood and supremacy of this woman. This world she's come to control, the worship she's received, and unrequited allegiance that assuages her every whim. She'd be wise to not let it go, and clearly, she wouldn't dare. I died again, and again, and again, and again. I felt insane at this point in time, and spiteful, because she reminded me of Melania. Maybe someday I'll do a whole video on Melania, so I won't get into specifics, but I made references time and time again. I hate her. I hated that fight. Not because it was particularly challenging, it was, but everything surrounding it made it so unappealing compared to many of the more understandable challenges posed. But after I beat her, I sure did scream. Not with joy, with anger. Scalding hot, bile-infused anger. I still hate what she represents, and especially what she's come to represent, becoming the figurehead of that game. And here, on my 8th attempt, Friede was finally beaten, and this was my reaction.
Fuck you! Fuck you, bitch!
Sitting here sometime later, writing the script, picking out the details, remembering the memories, I like the fight a bit more now, especially as a spectator. It is thrilling to watch. One of the purest, adrenaline-inducing experiences the game had to offer. Between the rising spiral of black flames, her vanishing act leading into splashes of ice, and my frantic eyes dragging the camera from corner to corner. I get it. It's fun to watch. But I refuse to say it was fun to experience. I mean, to a masochistic degree, I guess, but in terms of hopping on the game and getting to appreciate and absorb every ounce of the atmosphere and scenery, no. This fight is restrictive in that sense. If you avert attention for a second, you've lost track of Friede, or you've strayed too close to Ariandel. It's to the point where if you suffer from ADHD and win this fight, you deserve a medal. But I must say, The aftermath of this bout, it's something to appreciate. Well, one, the rewards. Friede's scythe is cool as shit. I can't even knock the outfit, it's got some swag to it. And this room, an empty shell of the stagnation it represented at first. A floor coated in snow, the cold creeping in, even through its walls. Now, adorned in blood, fire, and the light that has always remained. These symbols of life. A new beginning for this decrepit world. In the end, Friede gave me what I wanted. An assault unlike any other I'd seen in this game. A unique experience within herself. Though not the most enriching, or the biggest learning moment, Friede exists as a testament to FromSoft's wit and ingenuity when it comes to these struggles between mortal and one that ascended that plane. This concept of David and Goliath, faced with a formidable duo, overwhelming you by any means, sonically and visually. Though as the player, you rest assured, because no matter how long it takes, you will prevail. Your goal will be reached, so long as you don't go hollow. And with the painter, now shown flame, makes her promise.
I can hear the fire crackle, and soon I will see it.
As always, thank you for watching. Part 7 is all that remains, the final footnote in this epic. Now begins a hibernation for the series while I cook up an idea for how to present it. Next up is something, maybe my first how-to on something familiar. I think it might focus game to game and also play into general mechanics, but it comes down to gathering enough information to thoroughly present what I'd hope to teach. As well, there's Mass Effect and the bigger project in that video on art direction. So a few things to look forward to. I hope you guys stick around and enjoyed the video. Have a good day and see you next time. Bye-bye. Dude, I have no earthly idea. But there's some ass to that cathedral. I didn't even notice the ass. Titanite slab, let's fucking go. Oops. Yeah, there's some ass to that cathedral that I didn't see before. This is even better. Awesome. This became a tug of war on my very conscience, pulling me... conscience. It was, but everything surrounding, particularly, have a good idea? No. Ooh.